As many of you have seen and read, this past weekend there was yet another horrific hit and run, this one in downtown Minneapolis. Latalia Margali drove her SUV directly into a crowd of people, killing 16-year-old Demaya Broom and injuring several other people. Demaya had her entire life ahead of her. She loved drawing and painting, especially cartoon characters. She loved helping people. Her mother told reporters that anyone that was helpless, she wanted to help them. As you undoubtedly know from reports, shortly after midnight Saturday, there was a verbal argument in downtown Minneapolis that escalated into a physical altercation. Ms. Margali left this fight, made a threat, went to her SUV, backed it up, made a hard right turn, and then accelerated towards the fight and surrounding crowd at 5th and Hennepin. Ms. Margali drove directly into the crowd of people without braking, struck numerous people, including Demaya. Ms. Margali then fled the scene. Police located Ms. Margali's SUV shortly after, with help from a witness who followed her. This case is still under investigation, and we will refrain from further comment, but the investigation is at a point where we feel confident in charging Ms. Margali with intentional second-degree murder, which involves the intent to kill another person without premeditation, and 5 counts of second-degree assault with a dangerous weapon, the car. I know that no outcome in this case will ever bring Demaya back. I promise her family, however, that we will seek accountability for her death in a way that protects our community from further dangerous behavior. Our office and community have seen far too many cases like this recently. We've lost too many of our family members, friends, and neighbors because people made the deadly choice to get behind the wheel of a car and drive dangerously. Just 2 weeks ago, I had the unfortunate responsibility to stand at this same podium to announce that charges had been filed against Stephen Bailey, who drove his car into the patio at Park Tavern and killed 2 people and injured many others. Yesterday, we added charges against Derek Thompson for killing 5 young women with his car. When tragedies like this happen, our office will do its part in making sure that people who have made dangerous and deadly decisions are held accountable. Ms. Margali's life-altering decision to drive her car into a group of people has left Demaya's family with an enormous void. To her family, I am sorry for your loss. Demaya deserved to be safe. Everyone who goes downtown deserves to be safe. Lou?
There was some video available in this case. Have you had a chance to watch any of that yet? And if so, how did it strike you what you saw in the video?
There's actually, we were provided with much more extensive video that had different angles, which provided our team a very good opportunity to see exactly what happened.
And how did it strike you as far as the conduct that we see in the video?
Egregious. I mean, it's very clear from the video that she drove directly into a crowd of people, many of whom had their back to her and some of whom were on the ground. I'm reminded I should repeat the question. Were there any field tests done? We don't know that. As I said, the investigation is continuing. What we do know was that this was pretty clearly intentional conduct of driving directly into the crowd, whether or not she was under the influence of any substances, which actually wouldn't make a difference in terms of her culpability here.
Was there still a fight, the altercation going on in this crowd as she drove into it? That's your life.
Yes, the question is, was there still an altercation or fight going on when she drove into the crowd? And the answer is yes. There appeared to be people on the ground still fighting and a large group standing around that group when she drove directly into that crowd, and it looks like over the people who were on the ground.
You mentioned the other 2 recent high-profile cases. Can you explain just to the public why the difference between third-degree murder and second-degree murder when it comes to a driving homicide?
Sure.
And why those two cases are like third degree and this one is second degree?
Right. In general, so second-degree murder, intentional murder, means that a person had the intent. In other words, in this particular case, we have charged that she intended to use her vehicle to kill the people that she ran into and over. So the difference between third-degree murder and second-degree murder is intent. In third-degree murder, there is no intent. That's the highest level of recklessness or negligence that we have. So those are reserved for situations where the driver does not have the intent to kill. That's what makes this case different from a third-degree murder. Criminal vehicular homicide, which is another statute that you see us use, has a lesser level of it's negligence, gross negligence. So it's different when the conduct isn't intentional. And let's be clear here. It is intentional to get into a car and drive, even when you're intoxicated. That is an intentional act. But the intent has to do with your conduct. Were you intending to take somebody's life? In this particular case, we believe that the evidence shows that. In the Park Tavern case, we do not believe the evidence shows that. The question is, we're back here less than 2 weeks later. Is there a message I want to send to the public about dangerous driving behavior? And the answer is yes. Your car can be used as a weapon. Don't get behind the wheel of your car if you're angry or upset. Take a deep breath, walk around. Don't get into your car and let your emotions get the best of you. In terms of the drinking and driving cases, don't make a plan. Make a plan. Because when people drink, their judgment obviously isn't the best. So if you know you're going to drink, make a plan. Get a Lyft or an Uber. Have friends take you home. There are many, many options right now. As I said, it is an intentional act to get into a car after you've been drinking or using substances. And, you know, we see a lot of, and I'm sure every single one of you has seen dangerous driving behavior on the streets, probably more so since COVID. People speeding, going very, very fast. People going through stoplights. That is extremely dangerous behavior. And what I don't think people are thinking about is the potential consequence to that. There are going to be legal consequences for that. But one of the reasons I wanted to center Demaya here is you also have to live with the fact that you've taken somebody's life. And so before people get into cars, before they look, you know, when they're in their car, don't look at your cell phone. We've had criminal vehicular homicide cases where people have been on Facebook Live looking at their cell phones. You see it all the time when you're driving around. Don't take that risk, because in that number of seconds, you can ruin your life by taking another's.
You mentioned that the charges yesterday that you brought in the Thompson case. Can you talk more about the factors that led to those additional charges so long after that?
Yeah, so the question was about the additional charges of third-degree murder that we added in the Derek Thompson case. As I've said before, investigations continue. And we are always looking at whether there are new factors. It is a case from last year, actually. The trial is coming up this fall. So I would just say that at this point, because he is presumed innocent, and I don't want to get into the specific details of that while his case is so close to being resolved, we hope. But factors are always changing, and we are always looking into what the appropriate charges at when a case is coming up for trial. And we made that decision that in this particular case, since it was coming up for trial, that third-degree murder charges were appropriate. I'm going to, the case, I'll just say the case became stronger. And I think anything having to do with evidence or anything else having to do with that case, I would leave for trial or resolution of that case.
Just to follow up on that, is that plea offer still on the table? Because that came out in open court that was going to be on the table till November.
It is, yes. His trial date is after that, so he has until November 4th to take that offer. If he does not take that offer, it will be off the table, and he will, if he chooses to go to trial on the third-degree murder charge.
There's obviously like three very unique cases that all involve
Yes.
dramatic scenes and end in death and cause. Is this a concerted effort by your office to start using these murder charges to lay some kind of framework for how you view these kind of incidents versus, say, a criminal legal manslaughter?
Yeah, we don't use criminal charges to send any kind of message or to reflect a theory or philosophy in that way. We will and have always looked at each individual case individually. I think what may be different is we are talking about it. We are having media events when we are charging cases. And we are doing that because these are three very different cases, three different kinds of driving conduct. But we think it's important for the public to understand the potential consequences, legal and otherwise, when they engage in driving behavior. So no, our charging decisions would always remain the same by looking at individual cases, but out of the tragedy of all these cases, we hope that somebody out there will heed the warning here and have a plan when they get in their car to drive. Don't drive when you're angry, because this is an issue that we're seeing much more of. We had 13 cases submitted to us in all of 2023 for criminal vehicular homicide. To date now, we've had 16.
With Natalia being 22 and Demaya being 16, do you know what the relationship was between the two and, with that age gap in mind?
We don't. What we can see in the video, there was definitely a verbal argument that escalated into a physical altercation. That's something that I'm sure we'll find out with additional investigation.
Was that altercation between the two of them, or was it people that they were just there with?
No. I don't, at this point, have the names of the people who were in the altercation. What we do know is that Ms. Magali appeared to be trying to pull somebody off of a person that she may have been with, and then left that, and that's when she went to her car. We don't know what the relationships were, though. I mean, there's certainly stuff out there on social media, but we want to make sure that we are conveying facts, and until we know exactly what those relationships are, we won't be commenting on that. Thank you.